100,000 in my Goya, and that shit small. And y'all didn't help the day my brother died. You niggas done around with her. So I don't need that y'all send me.
Okay.
I just turned like 18.
Okay.
But the shit I'm doing now is shit I've been seeing my whole life, you know what I'm saying? I told you I got an older brother. So this shit ain't nothing new for real. It's the same shit I've been seeing. Everything I was doing, I saw already.
What's your highest level of education?
J Boogie, the older brother of Bloodhound Lil Jeff, is back behind bars, only a few months after being released. For many people watching this situation unfold, it feels like history repeating itself. And what makes it so tragic is that the cycle traces all the way back to the role J Boogie himself played in getting his younger brother into the streets in the first place. J Boogie and Lil Jeff grew up together in difficult circumstances on the south side of Chicago. Their mother raised both boys largely on her own, and the environment around them was the kind that leaves marks. From the Burnside neighborhood, the family eventually moved to the nearby Woodlawn area, staying on the south side throughout. By the time Lil Jeff was still in his early years, Boogie was already building a name in the streets. The Bloodhounds, the crew Lil Jeff would eventually become one of the most recognized names in, didn't form overnight. The alliance grew out of years of conflict, shifting loyalties, and connections between multiple Southside sets including Drill City, Chris World, MTV 079, and 400 East. Different neighborhoods that shared common enemies gradually began moving together. By around 2015 and 2016, the Bloodhound name was spreading across multiple blocks, and members from different sets started claiming it as a unified identity. J Boogie was among those repping the crew publicly before Jeff ever became the figure that people know today. And according to Jeff himself, that path started with his older brother. In an interview, when Lil Jeff was asked who introduced him to street life, his answer was straightforward: his brother. He described being 14 years old when his house got shot up, bullets flying past his face, the back and front of the building hit, the cops arriving. That was the world J Boogie brought him into. Whether it was intentional guidance or just the reality of two brothers growing up in the same environment, the result was the same. Lil Jeff followed the path that was already laid in front of him. By 2021, Boogie's situation had caught up with him. He was sentenced to approximately 6 years on a gun possession charge for unlawful use of a weapon. The timeline would have kept him locked up until around 2027. He later appealed the charge, and the appeal helped him secure an earlier release than expected. But while he was sitting inside, the streets outside were getting darker. The loss that hit hardest was Zoni. Zoni was Lil Jeff's cousin and one of his closest people, essentially filling the role of brother at a time when Jeff's actual brother was locked up. He was sitting in a parking lot waiting for a friend who had stepped into a nearby shop to drop off some clothes. That's when a vehicle pulled up beside him and opened fire. Zoni was struck multiple times. Doctors later confirmed he had been shot 29 times when he arrived at the hospital. He didn't survive. The loss broke something in Jeff. He and Q50 both got Zoni tattoos above their eyes to honor him. But grief in those streets rarely stays quiet. Rumors spread quickly that Zoni hadn't been caught by random rivals, that the people responsible had ties to Trap City, a set that Boogie himself had once been connected to. The idea that someone Zoni knew could have been involved made it worse. Retaliation came. A Trap City member named Lol was shot while inside a rideshare vehicle near the 1300 block of West Taylor Street. He was rushed to Rush University Medical Center but didn't survive. The block where the shooting happened had witnesses who said they heard multiple gunshots in rapid succession before the scene went quiet. Lol's death confirmed that the war between the Bloodhounds and Trap City had reached a point where there was no cooling down. Then came June 8, 2024. Lil Jeff and his crew reportedly slid into Trap City territory looking for their rivals. When they spotted targets, Jeff jumped out of the car and started firing. In footage that circulated afterward, the person being chased can be seen wearing bright yellow shorts, runs bobbing toward the porch of a nearby house. Jeff followed, pressing the chase. But when he reached that porch, it flipped. People were already waiting. Jeff was ambushed and shot multiple times. Reports put the number at around 19 shots. Bloodhound Lil Jeff died that day at 21 years old, gunned down on a drill in the neighborhood of the people who had been his enemies since the war that took Zoni. J Boogie was still in prison when his brother died. The same Trap City circle that Boogie had once moved with, that he had connections to going back years, was now being blamed for the death of the person he helped raise into that life. That weight is hard to put into words. The brother he introduced to the streets. The crew he once had ties with. His little brother dead on a porch while he sat in a cell. When Boogie eventually came home, the first thing he did publicly was drop a tribute record called Letter to Jeff. He talked about the pain of losing his brother and shouted out Jeff's reputation in the streets. It was the only way he had to acknowledge what had been taken from him while he was locked up and couldn't be there for any of it. But the freedom didn't last. Only a few months after his release, J Boogie was arrested again. According to reports, the charges were serious: possession of a controlled substance, possession of 2 firearms and 2 firearm magazines, one of which was allegedly loaded with armor-piercing rounds. On top of the new charges, the arrest also counted as a parole violation since he was still on parole from his previous gun case. Some online sources also reported that the arrest involved a high-speed chase, though those details remain unconfirmed. What is confirmed is that he is back behind bars, facing a situation that could keep him locked up for significantly longer than before. For people who have been following this story, the timing hits hard. Jeff is gone. Zoni is gone. The war that took them is still ongoing. And the older brother who played a role in setting all of it in motion is once again sitting in a cell, having never had a real chance to process what happened to his family on the outside. There's something genuinely tragic about the pattern here that goes beyond just another arrest story. J Boogie was old enough to know what the streets cost. He'd seen it up close. He'd lost people. He went to prison himself. And in the middle of all of that, he still brought his little brother into the same world. Whether that was out of love, out of habit, out of circumstance, or out of something he couldn't control, the result is that Lil Jeff lived and died by a code that his older brother handed to him. Now J Boogie is back inside. His brother is gone. The streets that built both of them are still claiming people. And the cycle that started long before either of them was old enough to understand it is still turning. Some people online are already saying this arrest could be the beginning of a deeper fall for Boogie. That with a parole violation stacked on top of new serious charges, he could be looking at real time that keeps him out of the picture for years. Others are wondering whether his return to the block opens up new beef with the sets tied to Jeff's death. Either way, the situation is far from resolved. The story of J Boogie and Lil Jeff is the kind of thing that should make people think about the weight of influence. When you're older and you introduce somebody younger to a world that has a limited number of exits, you're carrying part of whatever happens to them afterward. That doesn't disappear just because you're behind bars when the worst of it happens. Boogie is back inside. Jeff is gone. And somewhere in between those two facts is a story about brotherhood, streets, and choices that couldn't be undone. Drop a comment. Do you think J Boogie can turn things around when he gets out again? Or is the cycle too deep to break at this point?